So now we know why some children resemble their landlords instead of their father. If you live near your landlord or near a male neighbor, and you always see your landlord or this neighbor whenever you come out of your house, there is every possibility that your child may look like the landlord or neighbor without you having anything sexual to do with this neighbor or landlord. Watch this video and see how this becomes a possibility. I am coming to you today with the story of Jacob and Laban, his father in law, and what transpired between the flock of Laban, and how Jacob manipulated the genetics of Laban's flock to favor him. You will find this story in the book of Genesis, chapter 30. Most of us are familiar with the story of Jacob, how he decided to marry from his mother's hometown, and Laban was Jacob's uncle. So when he got there, he wanted to marry Rachel. The agreement was for him to work for Laban for 7 years, and he will be given Rachel. But after serving Laban for 7 years, instead of being given Rachel, he was given Leah. Leah is the sister to Rachel. He was not satisfied. That was a very big disappointment to him. So he offered to work for another 7 years to inherit the one he loved, which was Rachel, making it 14 years. So he served Laban to marry his two daughters. But after marriage, Lee started having children and Rachel couldn't have a child. After Lee had had, I think, about 4 boys, Rachel decided to give her servant Bilhah, right, to her husband to sleep with and have children through him. So the maid got pregnant and had a child. And when Lee saw that Rachel did this, she equally took her own maid, Zilpah, and gave to her husband to sleep with. What a jamboree. And they were all having sons and all of that before eventually Rachel had Joseph and Benjamin. I have found out that it was normal in those days for people to offer their maids, their children, their wives to someone for whatever reason to sleep with. I'm sure you remember that Sarah even did that with Abraham. She offered Hagar, her servant, to Abraham when they couldn't have a son. Then Hagar first had Ishmael before Sarah now had Isaac. So we have also seen other places. If you're following my stories, you would have watched or you would have observed, that most of my stories had incidents where a father offered his daughters to maybe a stranger or even offering his own wife and all of that. So I think that was also the scenario here. These two women offered their mates to their husband, Jacob, and I mean, what a culture. So, but this is not why I'm here. I am here to talk about what transpired after Jacob had, built a big family for himself, had had all these children, and had worked and lived with Laban for so many years. Laban was his in-law, but he had lived here throughout the time he had all his children, I think, except Benjamin, right? So it was a long time, a long time. So after a while, he started feeling like to return to his father's house, to return to Isaac. So he told his father in law about his plans, and the man pretended to be very happy, even though he was sad. But he kindly mentioned that God has been favoring his household since Jacob came. His business has been booming. His flocks of sheep and goats and cattle were, increasing, in a very outrageous manner. He was scared. You know how it is after the years of apprenticeship and you're about to settle your boy, you'll be naturally afraid of so many uncertainties. Is he going away with all my customers? After I have settled him, what will be left of me? And so on and so forth. So that was what was going on in the mind of Laban. But he tried to conceal it, even though it was glaring, because subsequently we read that he tried cheating on Jacob. Jacob said, "No, you don't need to settle me with all the gains you have made through my service to you. But I can, from today, begin to work out my wage till when I am ready to leave." So, and Laban was like, "What do you mean?" He said, of all your herds of sheep, cattle, goats, and whatever animal, from today, I'll start picking out the ones that are either speckled, streaked, or spotted to become mine, and then you will keep the plain ones. So Laban thought of it and said, okay, even though in his heart he knows that favor is following Jacob, that he knows what was going to happen. So he quickly, after they had this agreement, he quickly went with his son the following day to first of all select all the animals that were already streaked, speckled or spotted, select them out of the already existing flocks and hid them away from Jacob, meaning that Jacob will really have to start afresh from that day to breed the ones that he will select. So I don't know where that thought came from. I don't know what kind of gene mutation was that, but the Bible recorded in Genesis chapter 30 that Jacob had to cut the trunk of a tree or a big branch of a tree and made holes on it, peeled off the back of the tree branch so that you can see the white sap or the white uh, pardon the white internal skin of the branch, right? So and he took those things he removed from this branch and put them in the watering cans of the animals, so that whenever any of them is on heat, apart from that, they are always looking at the tree branch that he has made spots on, as they are going in, coming out. But when they also want to mate, he will put these whatever particles he removed from the tree trunks, he put them in the watering trough of the animals, and they look at it as they are drinking. And when they have children, when they give birth, the animal must be either streaked, spotted, or speckled. You understand this? So I was wondering where that idea came from and what it was about. Uh, after Jacob did that, he never worked again in recent times. Nobody ever tried it and achieved the same result. So, but the thing is that Laban kept changing their agreement, that if the lamb was young, Jacob can take the black ones. Then for the female and the male grown sheep or goats or cattle, it has to be either speckled, spotted, or streaked. So sometimes Jacob will start feeling, the goats and the animals are now giving birth only to spotted. Let's change the plan to speckled ones. So as Jacob was doing this, the patterns on the body of the animals were changing. If they agree on spotted, all the animals born at that period will become spotted, and Laban will be like, what's going on? Laban will be very confused and want to change the agreement again. Mbao, like all the animals are turning spotted, let's change the agreement to streaked ones. And just like that, the whole animals will start giving birth to streaked patterned ones. Laban will be like, oh no, this is too much. Let's change it to the speckled ones. And again, the animals will start changing their colors to speckled. So there was nothing Laban can do about this. And before you know it, like almost the whole herds of cattle and sheep and goats were turning to either streaked, speckled, or spotted, because now it's not just spotted, you have changed it many times. And so whether spotted, speckled, or streaked all belong to Jacob. Enmity started rising, jealousy, envy, and so on and so forth. And his wives were solidly behind him, telling him it's better we go, that even our father has not been treating us fairly since we got married to you. He now addresses us like strangers. After all, we don't even have any inheritance here. So it's better we take what we have gotten. God is favoring you. Let's take what we have and escape. They even stole their father's property. I have mentioned this in a previous video, I think Genesis chapter 31, where Rachel had to steal an idol that belongs to his father and went away with it and all of that. So, but then my problem here is about the gene mutation, about the change in patterns of the animals. I don't usually argue about miracles because they are miracles. supernatural events that we cannot explain how it came to be. But this one was not really a miracle. This was what Jacob did. Like, he knew that this is how it works, that if you put this thing in front of a pregnant animal, it will give birth to something that looks like it. I still remember that even up until now, from the east of Nigeria, there is this belief that if you are pregnant, you shouldn't look at ugly people, you stay away from masquerade, you stay away from people that have disabilities, so that your child will not transform in your uterus and look like those people. So maybe they got this idea from this Bible story, because if the sheep and the goats and cattle can change the patterns of their unborn babies in their uterus just by looking at, you know, a designed wood. So meaning that it's also possible for a woman to give birth to maybe a child that looks like their neighbor just because they stay together. If you live near your landlord, it's possible for your child to look like your landlord because you see him every day. You guys know what I'm talking about, but I don't know what you think about this. Has anybody tried this Jacob's arrangement, this his pattern, this his experiment? Has it ever worked for any other person apart from Jacob? Is it possible for an animal to look different just because it was exposed or looking at an object that has a particular pattern, not because the animal mated with another animal that had that kind of pattern on its body? So I don't know what you guys think, but my name is Vivian. I don't understand why this happened. The Bible didn't really make it. To me, it's not a miracle. It was something that Jacob did. So give me explanations if you have any. Give me your contributions, your view, your opinion to this story, and I will see you on the next one. Like and share this video, please.